All right, so welcome to episode 3 of the Coach's Corner. We are here at the iconic Tottenville High School, and of course, we're here with 10-year head coach, Coach Neville. What's going on, man?
How are you? Thanks for coming out to the Tottenville High School.
This is take 3, had to be honest with you. But, I'm really excited to be here. This is one of the most iconic venues in all of New York City. And, you have that 100 Luton. 100 Luton's always on the back of everyone's helmets. So, if you say 100 Luton, you know exactly where you're talking about. Yep. So you've been here for 25 years. What makes Tottenville so special?
Well, let's talk about the 100 Luton, right? So 100 Luton started with Coach Munson probably in the 90s. So teams would come in here, talk a little bit, and Coach would always say, we got to remind them where they're at. 100 Luton Avenue. Then it became a thing every year. Let them know where they're at. 100 Luton. So, and now it's on the back of our helmets. It's on T-shirts. So when you say 100 Luton, like you said, you're at Tottenville High School. So, and it actually goes into why this place is so special, right? So it's tradition. It's the alumni. We have a big alumni following here. Guys come back every year. We have a big alumni day. And then you come to the venue, the games. I think we're one of the first in the PSAL to have lights. So we've been doing Friday night lights since the 90s. The band, you come here, and our marching band is here, the cheerleaders, the atmosphere. And if you get here on a homecoming, which is usually the last game of the year, and we combine that with alumni night, you got 100, 200 alumni here from all over, standing room only on the sidelines. They shut down the back street, tailgating. Guys are going out there talking about when they played here. Going to pregame, you got 200 old guys behind us thinking about playing football at Tottenville High School, So we always talk about the best time in our lives when we played at Tottenville High School. So it's the tradition. It's the tradition, and it's just been built through the years. We've been playing ball here since 1969. Coach Munson was a big part of us, becoming relevant and being a championship team and a championship program. And I was lucky enough to just take it over and try to maintain it and just trying to get back on top.
So when you talk to the current players, I'm sure that's a big sense of motivation. I'm sure you point to Alumni Hall and say, look at these guys back here today. How much motivation does that give the players, the current players?
Yeah, we talk about tradition all the time. We teach them our fight song, which goes down to year to year. The kids know our fight song. So we coach that up in the spring and they start learning it. And, hopefully when we win, we sing it. We point to the showcase downstairs with all the jerseys, the great jerseys hanging up, the guys that went on to play D1, some of them, and some in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's through the 70s all the way, through present time. We got guys all over. We like to say Tottenville's everywhere. So, so the kids know, and the kids that's drained into their heads all the time here, all the time.
Absolutely. And like I said, I just love the walk up, that long drive where you have to walk up and then the stadium comes up. It really feels like an atmosphere when you come here. So, we have
always the band. The band takes it to another level, so the band does a great job here. They practice just as hard as the football team, so. And I always say there's nothing better than a Friday night game at Tottenville High School. We got the band going, the crowd going, the grill going, and it's just a great place to play. And I'm lucky enough to coach here.
Absolutely, Coach. So we have to go back to the last game of last season, which was the semifinal.
Figured that was coming eventually.
He was like, "Let me talk about the band one more time, so I don't have to talk about the semifinal." 46-40. It was one of the most incredible games I've been a part of. Now, I was just taking pictures. I couldn't imagine what it would be like coaching that game, playing in that game. It wasn't the outcome that you guys wanted. But just describe what it was like to be a part of a game like that.
When you're in the midst of the game, you're not thinking about, oh, this is a great game. You know, you just try to survive it with the win. You look back on it, I'm sure from a fan's perspective, it was a great game to watch. It was back and forth. You know, you think about that game, and I try to think about some parts of the game. You think about that game. So we fumbled the opening kickoff. Erasmus scores in, I think, 2 or 3 plays. We're down 7-0 before, you know, fans got in their seats, right? So now I'm thinking, oh, here we go. We're able to come back. Played semi-decent defense in the first half, where we were able to, I think, get a 2-touchdown lead. And then Erasmus made some great adjustments, came back, and it was back and forth. We make a big stop when the game's tied. Get down there. And are there a lot of decisions during that game that I still think about, still keeps me up at night? Absolutely. So we get down. I remember going out. They called a timeout. Coach wanted to run a play. I said, Coach, let's just run the play, get in the middle field, kick the field goal, get out of here. That's what we did. Razis makes the play, and you got to live with the end result, right? So tough way to end the season. Yeah. Tough way. You know, I've been doing this 25 years, well, going into my 25th. There's no words you have to your team after that happens. But it's my job to kind of be the adult in the room and kind of, you know, process it and talk to the team after. So it was a long bus ride home. It was a tough locker room. It was a tough talk to them here. And to be honest with you, it was a tough Thanksgiving. It was a tough Christmas, and it was tough for these kids too. You know, these kids, had a tough time. A lot of them, tough time. So now you got to reel them all back in. You know, they all wanna. You know, the immediate reaction is like they want to quit, they want to leave, they don't want to do it no more. So now it was my job to get them all back in, and with time to move forward. So it was tough. But again, Raz made the play, we did. So they won, we lost.
Yeah, it was just one of those games where it's almost cruel that one team has to lose it.
Yeah,
you know,
what are you gonna? It's somebody's always gonna. I tell the kids all the time, only one team is going to end their season happy. Everybody else, it's a shock. And there's tears. So the goal is to be that one team that ends happy, and then you don't have to, go through the tears and the heartbreak and all the emotions that come with it. Now, looking back on that game, did I make mistakes? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I got to live with those. Kids played their hearts out.
Absolutely.
I mean, the kids played their hearts out. I made some mistakes. I know, watching your podcast the week after, some coaches pointed that out. I'm fully aware that I might have made some errors, but if you read the paper the next day, I kind of, took responsibility because I made mistakes. So listen, it's a tough deal. You could second guess all the time, but if my decisions worked, then we're not talking. Or the field goal went through, when I'm not thinking about that, and we're not talking about this right now.
Yeah,
right?
Everyone could play Monday morning quarterback, of course, right? And just percentage-wise, it did make the most sense, honestly.
Yeah.
And I feel like in games like that, it's truly special games where, in my opinion, not trying to discredit the effort that anyone else gave, but when you had 4 players in Justice Murray from E Hall, Amir Morrow from E Hall, and then Tyon Bent from Tottenville and Corey Brown. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think it was a combined maybe 9 touchdowns.
Yeah.
9 touchdowns between 4 players. And it felt like every time one of those 4 players touched the ball, it was a touchdown. And honestly, that's the beauty of the sport. The sport doesn't come down to one decision and then it changes everything. It's a combination of all these plays. So just talking about those 4 players, especially the 2 you have, we're going to talk about them in more detail. But, not to put you on the spot, but has there been a game where you've seen 4 players or even 1 or 2 players have been that dominant?
I'm sure if I think back to my times, we had some great battles with Erasmus when they had Curtis Samuel and some other guys. And and we had Augustus. There's special players, there's just guys you look at and you play against and they're just special, and you could scheme up the defenses.
Exactly.
But they're just going to make plays. So, but there's been players like that all over. Curtis, Quincy Barnes was like that. Yeah. Ahmad was like that. Erasmus had a ton of players. Lincoln has players like that all the time where there's nothing you could do. Everybody's in the right spot and they just do what they do. So they're gifted by God. It's not a coach. Tyshawn's not Tyshawn because of me. Corey's not Corey because of me. They got a gift. So, and there's players like that and there's nothing you could do except, let's try this now. Maybe this will work. But that day, it was almost like a video game where it was back and forth. And we were talking before we started. The first game was the complete opposite. Where nobody can buy a point. Couldn't get a first down and played great defense. So again, you're dealing with high school kids. You never know what's going to happen. You never know.
Absolutely, man. And just to move on to just the success you guys have had as a team. So I'm just going to look down to make sure I get this right. So since 2019, there have been 5 seasons and Tottenville's been in the semifinals 4 of those 5 seasons. I personally think that's an incredible display of consistency at the highest level. Some people might say, oh, Tottenville, you're always falling short. So, how do you view, 4 out of 5 semifinals, including 2 championship appearances?
Yeah, I see it both ways, right? So I think we built something here where, and I say this to our guys all the time. See, everybody seems to want to circle Tottenville on the calendar when they play Tottenville, no matter who it is. And I tell my guys, we haven't, I must be doing something right because we haven't won a championship since 2003. So, but it seems like when we play a game, it's a big game for everybody else. So, we must be doing something right here as far as, like you said, we're consistent. We've always been around at the end of the year. And we haven't been able to get over the hump. So the other point is we fall short, right? So again, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, what can we do better? What can I do better? What can we do different? Why can't we take that next step? So you got to be able to self-evaluate yourself. And this year was a big year for that, right? So what can we do differently? So you're always trying to figure it out. But I'll tell you, everybody has talent, right? Everybody has talent. And the talent is getting more and more spread out throughout the city. So everybody has talent, so you need talent. We need coaching. I think everybody, when you talk about that level, everybody has good coaching. You need a great culture, right? You need to build a great culture. Year to year, culture changes. You got to keep that culture. Team chemistry, you got to have great team chemistry. You got to have no injuries, right? And got to have a little luck. If you look at last year, and I will tell Pete this, he had talent, but what Pete had that I think he had the best of, his team, when I played against him, you could tell that team, they played together. They had a great culture. They played hard. They loved each other. They had those little intangibles that took them over the top. So that's what we're always searching for here. Pete had it last year, better than anybody, and I played against him, and we play every year for a trophy.
Beautiful.
And I have to give the trophy. The loser coach has to give the trophy to the winner. And all I could say to Pete that day and his team, you guys kicked our ass. You deserve it. So they did, and it was the way they played together. Again, everybody had talent, and maybe teams had more talent, but the way that team played, and that's what we're all searching for, those little intangibles, and that's what we're searching for here to get us over the top. And we'll just keep searching.
Yeah, and I think the people who are negative about not being able to get over the hump, they don't really understand sports and competition in general. When you get to the top level, so first of all, you guys have to get to the level that Tottenville is at, first of all. Second of all, when you have these games against the top level teams, the margin of error is so small. If we go back to that game in the semifinals against Erasmus, people might want to talk about the blocked field goal, but what about the 2-point conversions? What about the missed tackles, the this, the that? There's such a small margin of errors, and we're talking about these one-off games. It's not an NBA finals where it's a 7-game series.
Yep.
I think that's one of the things that people love the most.
Done.
Yeah, people love the most about football is these high stakes. So it truly is. Oh, and also, what about the other teams? Erasmus going on a 5-year streak.
Yeah.
Tottenville fell short, but there were 30 other teams that fell short.
Yeah. So you look in 19, right? So 19, I go undefeated throughout the PSAL. Erasmus they were loaded with D1 talent. I get them again at Yankee Stadium, and they beat me up pretty good, right? So, they were better than us, right? So then, like I said, we're unfortunate where we have a talented team some years, and just Erasmus is loaded up, Curtis is loaded up. Those teams are just have more loaded up than us, right? So, even 2 years ago, right? So we're playing Erasmus, and our game plan was, let's make the game ugly. Let's because they were so good up front, right? Their D line was tremendous, So, and if we could have played a little defense that day, maybe, we scored 21 against that defense that day. So, listen, everything has to come together. So at the end of the day, it all falls on me. I'm the head coach. I like to say kids win games, coaches lose games. So, just got to do a better job. And just keep searching. That's what we do here, right? Every year is different, and every year we try to win. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I feel like the real reflection of a coach are the leaders on his team. And it's crazy that, Mr. Tyon Bent, he has been a leader since his freshman year, honestly. We don't have to say exactly what he said before the Erasmus Hall game, but, he was just such a passionate player, and he's such a great leader. And we're not even talking about any of his football skills yet. It's very proud that he's, committed to Stony Brook. Yeah. So how about you just talk about how it's been watching his journey as a player?
Well, it's been great, So people don't know, Tyshawn's brother played here in 19. He was on that team. So I've known Ty since he's 11.
Wow.
Right? So I've known Ty a long time, and I had to recruit him about 4 times, different times. Yeah. So when he was 11, he's definitely coming to Tottenville. When he's 12, he was coming. When he's 13, the calls weren't, the texts weren't being returned to him, right? So he was going here, and I had to reel him back in, and he was coming here. And he was here his freshman year, and his freshman year was the year after COVID. I knew we were going to have tough, so we had Ty as a freshman on the varsity. We had about 6 or 7 other freshmen on varsity that year, So that was my worst year here. We went 5-6, so I've had 1 losing season in 10 years. Well, 10 coming up, and 9. And that was,
you can't say that.
and that was, but I think at the end of the day, me and Ty at our point right now, at this point of his career and us being together, where it's almost like a father-son type of deal.
Yeah.
I can tell him anything. He can come up and talk to me about maybe something that's bothering him on the field, off the field. He trusts me, I think. I never lied to him. I always said I would take care of him when he came here. I'd make sure he's taken care of, beyond here.
Yeah.
There's days he's mad at me, and there's days I'm mad at him. So it's days he tells me he loves me, and days I tell him I love him. But I've seen him grow from a boy to a man, and I see it academically come from here. Now he's here. So, he has an opportunity now to change his whole life. After he gets out of here in January, he goes to Stony Brook. He's going to a great place. A young, good, up-and-coming coach. A great school. So again, I think it hasn't always been easy, with me and him. Hasn't always been easy, and he'll tell you the same thing, but he knows at the end of the day, he's a Tottenville guy, and this is where he belonged, and this place helped him tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, Tottenville owes Tyshawn a lot. The PSAL owes Tyshawn a lot. New York City owes Tyshawn a lot.
You talk about special players. So you're a running back at 140 pounds on the varsity. First time we give him the ball, he scores versus Christ the King. First time. First carry. Score.
Wow.
So now, 140 pounds, 15 years old, 14 years old. Next week, we're playing St. John's Collegiate in Washington, D.C., a top 20 team in the nation, and Tyshawn's running the ball and getting smacked around at 140 pounds. Never gets hurt. Don't want to say never. Plays hurt. Plays dinged up. Always answers the bell. Need a play, he makes the play. Again, just to see him as an 11-year-old to where he is now, and where he's going, where he's headed, makes me, it's the reason why we coach, right? So, when we're after the losses and the devastation and, everybody wants to leave, what got them back in was my championship is seeing you go to college. And so at the end of the day, I don't win a championship. My championship is seeing you guys go be good men. And I think that resonated with them. And then ever since then, we've all been on the same page. So,
man, I mean, it's just appreciate giving us that insight on that kind of relationship with, a player. That's something that people don't even realize sometimes. He's been here for 4 years, but you've known him since he was 11 years old.
Yeah.
That is a long journey.
And it always hasn't been good times, right? So it always hasn't been good times. You're dealing with it in a day and age where the first sign of adversity, kids want to run out of here, right? So, so it hasn't always been good, but we've grown, together, and he's probably, out of all the kids I've coached, he's probably one of the closest I've been around as far as being on top of, taking them places, doing things with. So yeah, the relationship will go on after he leaves here.
No, I really love that. And, we were just talking about, off camera before, the value of really watching the games and talking to the coaches to give you the full context. I think one of Tyshawn's best attributes is his selflessness. Let's say, playing with someone like Corey Brown that we're about to get into, some people might say, why is this guy taking my carries? I could have 8 touchdowns instead of the 4, but Tyshawn's not like that at all. And just to transition into Mr. Corey Brown, I don't know if you realize this, Coach, but he scored 12 touchdowns in the playoffs alone in his freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah.
12 touchdowns in the playoffs. And I'm pretty sure that includes 2 3-touchdown games, one being in the championship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, having that kind of backfield, of course, is tremendous. But can you talk about like how it is balancing that?
It's not as difficult as people would think because of who Corey is and who Tyshawn is, right? So again, I don't think anybody's built to get the ball 25 to 35 times a game at any level, right?
Agree.
So we are able to like manage it easily like that. Also, that, like I said, they're both so unselfish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we preach here about being happy for somebody other than yourself. So when somebody else scores, we're happy. If somebody else is shining, you're happy. They both are like that.
Yeah.
And Corey's just a different type of person, player. You know, when we talk about Corey, like, whereas me and Ty are always like, there's something always going on, or he's talking, he's up. Corey's just, he just comes to school every day, gets his 95 average, at every workout, doesn't say much. Everybody loves him. He's friends with everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. Corey's hanging out with you. And again, and Corey's rock solid. Like, you never have to worry about Corey with anything. Is Corey going to show up? Absolutely. Corey going to transfer tomorrow? Absolutely not. Corey, you know, is Corey going to, you know, be in school every day? Absolutely. You know, last day of school, Corey Brown goes every class. You know, when there's tumbleweed blowing down the hallways, nobody's here. Corey Brown's in class. He just checks every box, Corey. So with both of them, and what helps is they've been friends for so long.
Wow, so they knew each other prior to the time.
Yeah, Corey and Ty have been playing since they're like 6. Wow. You know, so they're tight, they're friends. They've always done their thing together. So it makes it easy. And again, it's the culture we preach here. It's not about one guy. Can't win with one guy. Can't win with 2 guys. You need a team. And everybody's an important part of the team. You know, so they understand that. And they'll do whatever it takes. If it's Ty's day, it's Ty's day. If it's Corey's day, it's Corey's day. If it's somebody else's day, if it's Kans's day or Justin's day or whoever, it's their day. At the end of the day, when kids just want to win, and that's why I feel so bad at the end of that game, because I knew how bad guys like Ty and Corey wanted to win. I felt like I let them down a lot with some of my decisions that day. But at the end of the day, that's all they want to do is win. So however we can win, they're willing to do it. You know, Ty has to play defense. If Corey has to play defense, you know, if Ty has to return punts, if Corey has to return punts, if Corey has to be on the kickoff team, they're willing to do it. You know, there's no role that's too small for them.
And I'm sure that matriculates throughout the whole team. You know,
yeah.
If Ty and Corey are doing it,
that's it. When your best players are doing it, and your best players are doing everything we ask them to do, you got to do it. You know, so again, yeah, they've been a blessing. You know, they've been a blessing. But Corey, I mean, his dad played here for Coach Luten.
Wow.
Yeah, his dad played here. Parents are great, just great people. You know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You meet his parents, you know why Corey's Corey. And then athletically, kid's just gifted, you know? Kid's just a gifted kid. But he has no ego. You know, so, which makes it even better. He's just easy coach.
Easy kid to root for.
Easy to coach. You just describe him. Is easy. So, and again, could have went to any school in New York City, North Jersey, anywhere. Chooses to come here. So I take that again, that his parents entrusted me with him, you know, because wherever Corey went, he's going to go wherever, you know. So I take that, they're trusting me, and you know, I give them my word. I'll take care of him, and that's what I try to do.
Listen, and you know, that is tremendous, but of course, you know, Tyon, Corey, they can't run without offensive line.
They can't.
So, you know, Tottenville is known across the tri-state area, honestly, for just having one of the grittiest, toughest offensive lines, especially when it comes to that outside zone, you know. So what makes the offensive line so good for players like Tyon and Corey?
So there's a few things, right? So one, like, so you're an offensive lineman, running back runs for a touchdown, everybody's cheering for the running back. Quarterback throws a pass, they're cheering for the quarterback. What a pass, what a catch. Quarterback gets sacked, come on, O-line, block.
Yeah.
Running back gets the ball, no gain, come on, O-line, block. So they only get recognized when something bad happens. So, and we understand that here. So the coach and my offensive line coach, who's the offensive coordinator, who's actually giving up, he was actually now, I have Angelo Novello who played for me. He helped out on the O-line. He's going to take the O-line. But Coach Hench, who's the offensive coordinator, he's an offensive line guy, right? And he does a great job of building an offensive line culture. And it starts in January, right? So they have meetings in January. They're on the board in January. They're walking through stuff in the gym in January. And the offensive line almost here, it becomes like almost an honor to play the O-line here, right? So, and Coach is great because Coach thinks he can make anybody into a good offensive lineman, right? So he has this unique ability to make these kids feel important, which they are. We all know that, right? But how many people want to play offensive line? It's such an underappreciated position. But the kids here, they love it. And it comes from the coach, right? It comes from him, just instilling in them how special it is to be an offensive lineman, how special it is to be one of these 5 guys or 8 guys or 10 guys, how many guys are in the room that year. And they just embrace it, these kids. They embrace it. They embrace the grittiness of it, the hard work of it, the fact that we might start practice at 3 and they're here at 1:30 in the film room with the coach. So, and that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect is they work. You know, Coach has them here. They start coming in January on Saturdays to watch film and to walk through in the gym, walk through those steps, those run steps and do those drills. And so it's a culture here that he's created. And it becomes a place and a position that if you're an offensive lineman, you probably want to come here and get coached the way you get coached here by him. And now one of his disciples that played for him, Angelo Novello, is doing it. And you know, Coach is always going to be involved with the O-line, but this is the culture of the offensive line here. It becomes almost like a group, like a special group to be part of.
So factory when I look at it. I mean, that is incredible. So the first thing I want to talk about is I don't think I've ever thought of, you know, when people think of an offensive coordinator, I feel like they always think about former quarterback. I feel like that's like the first thing that people would assume an offensive coordinator is. But then when I think about it, having an offensive line coach as an offensive coordinator, I mean, I don't know how unique it is. It sounds unique to me, but that's probably the best, maybe the best way to go about it because everything runs through it. So why not have that mind with the keys?
Yeah, I mean, you always you can't do anything without them.
Exactly.
Right? You could have the best skill guys in the world. If you don't have those 5 guys playing as one, it doesn't matter. So coach is, you know, he's been an absolute blessing for me. I used to coach the O-line. So I was coaching the O-line, and it came to a point, and I think one of those years when we lost to Curtis in the semis, I think in 20, I said, I'm not doing a good enough job doing this, so let me bring somebody in. And Coach makes me look like a peewee offensive line coach, right? So I've been doing it. I did it for about 12 years, but he is meticulous. And again, he gets these kids just to buy into being an offensive lineman. So, and that's a unique skill he has of getting these kids to believe, because what are offensive linemen? They all want to be what? Defensive linemen, get the sacks and get that, right? You got to wear unsexy numbers, right? 50, 60, 70. You can't wear the single digit D lineman can. So it's just a, you know, it's a position that he's been able to just cultivate this culture of just them wanting to do it. And it doesn't matter how big they are, so how, you know, if they're small in stature, he thinks he can make them the best linemen, and he instills that in them. And it's worked. I mean, he's done an unbelievable job with year after year. And the great thing about Coach too, he's so, I'm a glass half empty guy. He's a glass half full. He's like, we're going to have a better offensive line this year than last year. This is going to be our best offensive lineman. So the belief he has in his guys is unbelievable, and it gets instilled in them when these kids get so confident in what they can do, and that it's just making our offense very good for the last few years.
Yeah, I think that key word is culture, because no matter how many weights you lift, no matter how much film you watch, the play that's instilled in my head is a play from Cyrus Cardona. Pretty sure it was against Midwood, and I think it was like a screen to the right or something like that. And I just remember watching, it was almost like Cyrus was trying to race Corey up the right sideline. Or you guys know Cyrus was the center for Tottenville last year. And I literally see him sprinting as hard as he can. This is Corey Brown. Like, he is sprinting as hard as he can to maybe make a block. Like, you know, Corey just ran past everyone. Corey just ran past everyone and scored a touchdown. But he was sprinting just in case there's a block. And what people don't even realize, you know, you create your own luck. You know, Corey could have fumbled it. You know? And then, Cyrus jumps on it. It's a play no one thinks of. Tottenville recover it. Well, Cyrus just ran 50 yards down the field. So it's really like a culture thing.
I mean, and the work they put in. You know, you can't discount the work. You know, you're talking about January. So it's 30 degrees out. I got 10 kids sitting in here, coach sitting here on the board, watching NFL shots of how the Lions run outside zone, you know, and then they're going down to the gym on a Wednesday, and then they're watching that film. We film everything here. So he wanted to come in tomorrow with the O-line to watch what we did yesterday. I said, Coach, the building's closed. I'll wait till Monday. So he's a football junkie. He loves it. He loves coaching. The kids love him. But again, it's culture. O-line gets treated well here, so we have a team meal. O-line eats first. So they're not a forgotten group here. You know, they're acknowledged here, and we understand the importance of them.
That is tremendous. And just to pivot, you know, I personally think that your quarterback, Justin McGuire, is criminally underrated. Him and Nick Constantino, you know, I think they're two like one of the best pairs in the entire league. You know, so how good do you think your passing game could be this year with those two?
Well, I think it's going to be really good this year based on the fact, one, that we got Angelo now with the O-line. So now we got Coach now working a lot with the quarterbacks, a lot with the receivers. So that was something we discussed at the end of the year that Coach 100% agreed with. And we love Justin here, right? So we'll take Justin first. So Justin, another guy, he's at, you know, we talk about Ty playing high school football on the varsity level at 14. Justin was out there starting quarterback mid-year through his first season. You know, just playing football, tough position to play as a 14-year-old on the varsity. Tottenville High School. But again, tough as nails. He's just a football player, right? How many times has he gotten hurt where I'm like, this kid's going to be done for the year, and next week he's back? Tough as nails, playmaker. I think this year you're going to see the best version of Justin McGuire. I really think everything's going to come together for him. And I really think this is going to be his best football that he plays here. He's confident. He knows the offense. He's put a lot of work in off season. We talk about the O-line with him. Coach has been with Justin in the off season watching film too. He's right there with the O-line. He's right there with Coach. Yesterday before practice, the quarterbacks were up here watching film. So I think this is going to be his best year, Justin. And again, nobody I'd rather hand the ball to in a tough big game or need a big play than him. He's not going to cower to the moment, right? He's going to rise to the moment, Justin. As far as Nick is, everybody wants to talk about Corey and Ty. I think Nick is a little underrated here. If you watch Nick do his thing when he gets his shot, he's always making plays. As far as he's kind of a great kid to coach because you can put him in the backfield, you can put him at the slot, you can put him at the wide out. I mean, he's a great route runner.
Yeah,
catches everything near him. Like I was telling you, his stop and start is incredible. His route running is incredible. We can't cover him in spring, so he's always getting open. So I think he's going to take the next step too this year. So that was his first year playing varsity football last year. So again, usually he's on the rise. And I think I got some guys that nobody knows about, right? So we got, I don't want to give all my secrets out. There's going to be some guys that I think are going to make us more athletic on offense at the receiver position. So we have Gavin Ledwith, I think, is going to give us a dimension on this offense that we haven't had in 2 years. And that's all I'll say. But he's going to be a player to watch for us, and we have a couple other receivers that I think are going to change our offense in a way where we're not. And I don't want to say, everybody says, oh, we don't throw the ball. Why would you throw the ball when we're running the ball with the success we're having? Well, should we just throw the ball just so everybody wants to see a pass? If we could run the ball, and I was like this my whole career, if we're running the ball one play and it's working, I'm going to continue to run that ball and run that same play. I think it'd be silly not to. So are we capable of coming out and throwing the ball 25, 30 times? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we have guys this year that, people, like I said, everybody knows Nick, everybody knows Corey, everybody knows Ty, but I think there's other guys that we have that are going to, people are going to know by the time we start playing this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just for that, I definitely, first of all, I love the passing game, of course. And I guess I always like to look at football in percentages. So let's say the E-Hall Tottenville game, the second time, the percentage chance of running for, 250, 300 yards against E-Hall, probably a little smaller just because of how physical their front seven is. They bring someone else into the box because they're running the ball so much. So I guess I always just personally value balance to kind of, as a defensive player myself, that was always the hardest thing. Like if I wasn't sure what they were going to do, and now they're ahead. And you have, I guess it's probably me just being greedy because I just know, I just see how many athletes you guys have. And, especially with Justin, this could be the year where
I think you'll see a little bit a different dynamic on
it's scary, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, and we understand that. We always evaluate ourselves after the season and look at what we did and what worked, what didn't work, how can we get better? You know, we don't talk about like plays, right? We talk about players, what players we got to get the ball to. Right? So we want to get certain players the ball.
Oh, I like that mentality.
And it's more than two, right? So we got a few that we need to get the ball to. And I think that will make us a tougher team offensively, So I think you're going to see a little bit different stuff from us this year on the offensive end. And I think some guys are going to take the next, get onto the radar, so to speak now. Like, who's that guy now, right? Like, nobody knew really who Nick was. Or the first time I heard somebody mention Isaiah Anaruba was you after the ELO game, right? Nobody knew about him, right? Well, he put himself on the map after that game. So I think that we have a few guys like that that are going to like say, oh, wow, who's that, right? So that's what we're thinking, and hopefully that works out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, of course, you think Tottenville, you think of their offense, but, of course, you have some standout players on defense as well. Jaden Innocent, Kyle Charles, and someone that you were missing last year that I feel like was definitely a big miss was Nick Acosta.
Yeah.
So just talk about, what they bring to this defense.
Well, definitely defense. I knew last year that we were going to we had a lot of work to do on D last year from the start, based on what we lost the previous year. And I felt once Nick got hurt in that first game, Nick's like our heartbeat, our swagger, like we say, right? He gives us that swagger. Once we lost Nick, we lost our swagger, we lost our toughness almost. Nick's a tough kid, right? And we were searching for that the whole year. So after Erasmus putting 46 on us, a big emphasis this year in this offseason was let's fix this defense, right? So that's the goal. I think we're going to be a lot better on defense this year. You talk about Jaden Innocent, right? I mean, here's another guy. We was talking last year. You would not ask me about Jaden Innocent, right? Jaden Innocent's a guy that didn't play football his freshman year, never played football in his life. Seen him in the hallway, seen his size, come out for football, played 1 year JV. That was basically teach him how to line up and put on equipment, right? He gets with our D-line coach, Coach Juvenelli last year. He just develops. By mid-year, he's ready to play a little bit, start making plays. Turn around now, you're almost looking at a guy that possibly will go to college for free, right? Right? So talking about development of players, and I give all my credit, not to me, because I probably like, what do we do with this kid, I give it to my coaches, defensive line coach, Coach Juvenelli, just technique, coaching him up. And, the kid has become a really, really good player. Kyle's another guy. Been playing football since his freshman year, going into his junior year.
Oh, okay.
Super twitchy, athletic. Again, growing pains, right? Everybody thinks you can just throw guys out there as freshmen, sophomores, and they're just going to be superstars, right? It's a progression. It's slow. It's a slow climb for some people, right? Everything's got to click and come into place. I think this is the year Kyle's going to be that corner that we're expecting him to be. So I really excited about the defense this year. I think we're going to be more physical. I think we're going to have Nick back, gives us that swag. And I'm excited to see if we could play a little bit defense, because if we could play offense the way we've been playing it and play a little bit of defense, we should have a decent year.
It wasn't all bad, right? You only, the first game against you all was 12-6 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, they're 12-8, whatever.
Well, you only remember the last one. Right?
You only remember the last one, of course. So, to build on that, I think
we had probably we didn't create a lot of turnovers, so that was an issue with us. When you have an offense like us, let's get them extra possessions. We didn't have a lot of interceptions. We didn't have a lot of fumble recoveries. I thought offensively, if there's one area we could improve on, I thought we we put the ball on the ground too many times. So, I mean, to get back to the defense, I think we could focus on that. But I just felt we didn't have, or I just didn't, all year I just felt like it was we were patching holes, you know? And we didn't have good depth either, right? So if somebody got hurt, you know, so you talk about the Erasmus game, Jesse McCall gets hurt. He, like the first series, so he's out, and another linebacker is out, and then we're mixing and matching and moving guys around.
Taking a picture of Corey playing linebacker.
Yeah, Corey's playing linebacker, you know. So it was, we were just throwing bodies out there at the end and just trying to hang on for dear life, and it didn't happen.
I mean, I got one step away, so it didn't do that bad of a job. So I know we've spoken about your staff, you know, a bit already, but anyone else you want to mention on your staff and how they contribute to your success?
I mean, you're only as good as your staff, right? So I always tell parents, when my parent meeting, if it wasn't for my staff, it would just be me out there screaming my head off, yelling at everybody. So these are the guys that, like, my success, or it's not my success, it's our success. It's because of them, right? So the hours they put in, you know, year round, who's, not everybody works in the building, right? And so I got Coach Bobby Johnson works in the building, does the DBs. Coach Khalifa Forbes, he's a firefighter, so he's running around with his kids and getting here. Coach Hench is retired, he's got grandkids, he's watching, he's getting here. I got Coach Mahoney, George is, he works, he's a chemical engineer. I still don't know how he does it, but he's here every day like clockwork. If he says he's going to be here at 3:30, he's here at 3:30. Coach Sarno's in the building. He's the defensive coordinator. Of course, our flag football coach.
Congratulations on the championship, back to back.
So, you know, he's in the building. Mike Q is a young guy who's always here, does the receivers. Another teacher, Coach Ritchie's, does the running backs. And, you know, these guys sacrifice, you know, so their families, they get out of work. Coach Juvenelli, I mentioned, I played with him. You know, I'm biased, but I think he's the best D-line coach in high school football. I know there's other guys, but he's my guy, and he does a great job with my guys. So I just got great men, and now I got Angelo, who just graduated last year, and we're grooming him. Grooming him. He's going to be a great offensive line coach and probably a great head coach one day. So it's a good staff. It's a great staff, great guys. They love football. They're addicted to it, some of them. All of them are pretty much addicted to football and competition and kids. And, you know, again, we're talking here about Tottenville success. Tottenville success is about the kids and the staff. It's not about me, right? I was just lucky enough to be here under Coach Munson, and he saw something in me, and to become the next head coach here. So I was just at the right place at the right time. But the success, he built it. I'm just maintaining it, and these guys are doing the job of maintaining it. I'm just trying not to screw it up, I said.
Listen, Coach, you stole my thunder a bit on the last question, but I'll still ask it. Yeah. You know, after, you know, a disappointing end to the season, you know, a block field goal away from another back-to-back trip to the championship, you know, what's a successful season in 2025 for the Pirates?
Well, our goal, when we talk about goals, mid-year, like when we meet in the spring, and when we meet, the team's goal is to practice on Thanksgiving. That's our goal. We don't talk about anything other than that. Our first goal is to practice on Thanksgiving. Because if we meet that goal, you're either, depending on how the calendar works, you're either 1 of 4 remaining and you're playing in a big game, or you're 1 of 2 remaining. Last year, you would have been 1 of 2 remaining. We didn't meet our goal last year. So that's our goal, practice on Thanksgiving. How we get there, you could be 13, 12-0, you could be
exactly.
5-6.
Yeah.
just get to Thanksgiving. So we say, like, we don't talk about undefeated season. We don't talk about beating this one, beating that. We talk about practice on Thanksgiving. You know, because if you talk about anything other than that and you lose a game, oh, there's our goal. We lost our goal. Week 1. Goal of being undefeated is over.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So let's just that's our goal. Practice on Thanksgiving. When we get to Thanksgiving, we'll talk about the next one. What's our next goal? You know, so that's the mentality of what we're doing here, and we'll say hopefully we'll be out there on Thanksgiving.
Coach, it's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Tomorrow we'll be interviewing Coach Gambardella. Appreciate you guys. Make sure you subscribe. See you later.